NFL players bring sheer energy and excitement to every game. There's a reason we're so hooked. But what we don't often realize is the amount of energy and effort the players put every single minute on that pitch to deliver that level of performance. The quarterback we're going to talk about today is eager to get back on that field once his recovery ends. Let's see how Joe Burrow is doing today. First up, Joe Burrow confirmed earlier this week that his appendix had indeed ruptured. Joe Burrow, the quarterback for the Cincinnati Bengals, acknowledged last week that his appendix had ruptured, prompting an appendectomy and possibly a longer road to recovery than anticipated earlier. This situation does explain Burrow's frantic effort to regain more weight before the season began. According to Joe, the appendicitis he had wasn't the typical kind you hear about. He didn't feel all that much. The athlete was only going for a routine checkup because he was experiencing some discomfort. When they decided to get it looked at, it turned out to be appendicitis, and thus they had to get it corrected. The pain levels and the quarterback's fight to return may be worse than planned, since nothing about the situation outside the building was conventional or usual as previously anticipated. It now makes a little more sense why Burrow would arrive on a golf cart while still having a PICC line in his arm and looked plainly in pain when getting on or off. Burrow has plenty of time to return in full by the start of the season, but his recent interaction with reporters revealed a more difficult journey than initially anticipated. He at least appears to be improving throughout practice. You know what they say, practice makes perfect. We're just happy to report that he's doing well. Up next, let's give you a play-by-play of Wednesday's training session. Joe arrived at training camp on Wednesday and participated in 11-on-11 team exercises for the first time since the Tremendous Bowl. He said he does not want to participate in any of his team's preseason games in his first meeting with the media, but added that he is feeling fantastic and feeling better each day. The footballer told the media that during his time on the bench, he lost some of the weight necessary to perform at the high level he has shown in his brief time in the NFL. And now, with the start of the NFL season just a few weeks away, the 25-year-old has a limited amount of time to try to build himself back up. According to Paul Denner Jr. of The Athletic, Burrow was sad that he was here when he could be there, as he was in the hospital earlier while still in recovery. He said he didn't do much during that time except try his best to catch up on as much sleep as he could. Other than dealing with the pain and sleeping, he didn't do much to pass the time. If anyone deserved some slow days because the action is just around the corner, it's our guy Joe. So we're happy to know he's well rested and ready to get back in the game. Coming up, what does the quarterback have to say about regaining the weight and building his strength? Our favorite football player had a lot to say on his road back to his original strength. He said he used to feel the best he ever did after finishing the off-season coaching, and now he has to return to that. The athlete discussed how when you're trying to gain 20 pounds in a few weeks, it feels like high school all over again. So all they're really doing is pushing it down as much as they can. Joe added that it was important to do it in the off-season because you work on building up your body and becoming more athletic throughout off-season training to get stronger, larger, and quicker. That helps because when you arrive at camp, you can focus on soccer without having to worry about all that stuff. So basically, you can be more focused. But since he had that surgery and lost his strength, Burrow will need to put that back on the forefront in order to rebuild himself. He acknowledged that and said he realized it seems like his entire career has been about overcoming difficulties and speed bumps, but it's just another obstacle in the road. Our guy has done it before, and he can do it again. Next, Joe Burrow is praying for calmer waters in the future. The quarterback for the Cincinnati Bengals had to get ready for his NFL debut during the height of the COVID-19 outbreak during his rookie season. If that wasn't enough, during the previous season, he had damaged his ACL and MCL months previously and was still in the process of recovering from them when his appendix ruptured. Although Joe states that he is feeling better every day, it's probably going to be an uphill battle, so it makes sense that Burrow is currently hoping for calmer waters soon due to his burst appendix. The footballer went on record and said he would like to have a regular off-season at some point in the future. He wants to go into a season feeling as good as he can, which would be fantastic. We hear you, Joe, and we feel where he's coming from, but our guy here isn't a quitter. He said he's going to take advantage of what he has received since that hasn't been the case for 3 years, but he will definitely try again next year. Fingers crossed. Wednesday saw the release of Sports Illustrated's NFL Preview Edition, which featured Burrow on the cover. Their ultra-cool QB has altered the Bengals' attitude, the description reads. Burrow dismissed it by saying it simply is a byproduct of success and will vanish in the absence of achievement. He added that these things don't matter to him. Up next, what's in store for Joe now? Burrow won't be participating in any of the final 2 exhibition games. It's too risky. In fact, it's unlikely that any Bengals starters will suit up for the upcoming game on Sunday against the New York Giants. Obviously, Burrow says that he would have liked to. So far, it simply doesn't seem to be in the cards. The entire situation has somewhat complicated that, according to the quarterback, but he won't be participating in a preseason game. Burrow will be prepared for action on September 11th during the remaining preseason practices, according to coach Zach Taylor. Taylor comforted everyone and said they've planned out every practice, and they've also discussed how many chances they still have to make sure they cross off everything before they enter week 1. Taylor said that they feel very confident that the two will be able to do that and be prepared going into that game? Well, as long as he's well and brings his A game, we'll be happy to see Joe play whenever he is cleared to. Now for some other news of interest. First, let's get an update on Denzel Ward's foot injury. Denzel Ward, a Pro Bowl cornerback, will participate in practice for the first time since Cleveland's training camp began on Monday, after being reinstated from the list of people who are physically unable to perform. He has been sidelined due to a left foot injury. Ward had an injury during Cleveland's final minicamp exercise in June, and since then has been limited to practicing alongside trainers at camp. Ward will be appropriately eased back into practice before being given the all-clear, according to Stefanski. When asked if Ward would return when the Browns hosted the Philadelphia Eagles for workouts on Thursday and Friday before hosting them for an exhibition game on Sunday, Stefanski replied, "We'll see, so we guess we'll find out soon enough." Next, Bengals great Ken Riley makes shortlist for Hall of Fame. Riley played for the Bengals throughout his whole 15-season career before passing away in 2020 at the age of 72. He was a quarterback for Florida A&M in college, where he excelled after switching to defensive back in the NFL. With 65 interceptions at the end of his career, he still ranks 5th all-time. The other two finalists, who were chosen from a list of 12 players who competed before the contemporary period, are linebacker Chuck Howley and defensive lineman Joe Klecko. When the complete selection committee meets in January, they must receive at least 80% of the vote to be chosen. Only 3 other Bengals athletes or executives, offensive tackle Anthony Munoz, wide receiver Charlie Joyner, and former owner Paul Brown, have been inducted into the Hall of Fame. Finally, let's look at Watson's suspension postponing the Browns' major QB investment. With the Browns, who have a well-documented history of errors, something always goes wrong. The Browns are unsure of what will happen to a season they thought had the potential to be memorable after Deshaun Watson agreed to an 11-game suspension and a $5 million fine as part of a deal with the NFL over claims of sexual misconduct. The earliest Watson will return is December, and even then, it will only be if he complies with the league's demands that the 3-time Pro Bowler get a behavioral evaluation and complete their treatment plan. The Browns were aware that there was a good chance Watson wouldn't be available for a while. In spite of the Texas lawsuits filed by 24 women, they signed him for 5 years. Stefanski thinks that with Brissett, the Browns, who have started a league-high 32 quarterbacks since 1999, can still achieve their objectives. "I know they trust Jacoby, and I know they trust each other," he said. "This is by far the best team there is." That's a wrap. What do you think of Joe bouncing back into the game? Let us know in the comments below, and we will see you in the next video.